said that he will jump in late.
Who?
Who will?
I'm-
Oh yeah, Ivan's got, he's double or triple booked right now, yeah.
Well, friends, I have just a loose agenda for us that involves a lot of updates. Keith, I know that you have a big grant that you just sent
Yep,
out.
CZI, yes.
Yeah, I think it's wise if we just start with you.
Okay, you want to give me screen share or do I have screen share?
I think you should. Let me know if you don't.
All right, let's see. Let me get this up here. Let me start with this. All right, you guys can see my screen, yes?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is the updated housing work group document. We had 10 participating partners: Lowell, Eldorado Firm, Highway City, Adams, Better Blackstone, Hidalgo, South Tower, Southwest Fresno, and Chinatown. So this is the group that is in the CZI grant if they want to apply, right? And each organization, in addition to the general information, we have our general advocacy, development, and management goals, which we all agreed to. And then we have our individual activities in those categories of advocacy, development, and management, right? And these are things you can draw on for the application. This all look familiar since it's been out there for a few months?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Stop sharing that. So let me get another thing up here. Let's see. All right. Back. Screen share. Okay. So what CZI translated through all of our work and giving them that document, and I'm reading in the highlighted green area. The CZI, this is Chan Zuckerberg initiative, right? Required project goals and milestones for Fresno CEDP housing workgroup member subgrantees. And this is actually in the grant agreement, which I also provided a copy to everybody of. It says the Fresno Community Economic Development Partnership will work at the neighborhood level through individual organizations and their organizational work efforts described in the Fresno Affordable Housing Strategy. Each CEDP workgroup member will have clearly articulated and aligned goals, activities, and outcomes with defined periodic milestones related to their neighborhood level work, encompassing affordable housing advocacy, development, and/or management. So I've translated that into hopefully a fairly simple application form. There's only 10 applicants that are possible, and they're the ones that are listed in the affordable housing document. And people can group. And I wanted to pay allegiance and acknowledgement of the small or the tiny homework, which is great. But each individual organization, if they wanted to replicate that in their own thing, can do that. So you can use that as a template, however you want to. If Esther is leading this and Kyle, and whatever you want to do, if you've got some kind of standard you want to create so that you can aggregate that work, just each individual member needs to put that into this format below, right? And just have their board through an email poll or however you want to document, approve that's our work for this thing, and you're good. So if you have 4 or 5 members that want to be tiny homes, or 6 members or 7 members, or whatever you want to do, just standardize your scope of work together. If it's not standardized, then show individual other things, and just throw it together pretty simply as to, you have a organizational description, the population you're serving, right? Your mission as an organization, those are unique. And then you can define all these activities commonly as tiny home activities if you're working together. Same thing with how you're going to document them. Same thing with the outcomes of the tiny homes, et cetera. Submit a budget, for how you're going to allocate that. And the contact information, any of the other attachments, send it in. And we can fund however many you want to aggregate together. And then if you have individual stuff, for example, Metro is going to be working on some major coalition work on getting affordable housing money into the inner city through a thing we call the Greenfield Coalition. We've got some work on the Fresno Opportunity Corridors, and we've got work with the Fresno Regional Task Force for Affordable Housing. So those are kind of the 3 things that we had mentioned before in our work, but so we're going to individualize it. But anybody wants to aggregate, that's great. I hope I provided a framework, Esther, that would allow that aggregation. Is that I'll just ask Esther because I want to make sure we support tiny homes initiative.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's set up for us to each submit individually. I think we can each submit it individually based on what's in our housing work plan. And if tiny homes is something we want to put it towards, then we'll put it towards that. I mean, I'm gonna
Perfect.
put mine towards the development of tiny homes on our lot. So I think this is one bucket of money that we can pull from. Question though, Keith, I regularly have my board votes on a resolution every year designating signatures of our organization. Basically, myself and our board chair and our treasurer are designated signers on behalf of the organization to make contracts and blah, blah, blah. Is that documented board member commitment? Or is there other specific language? Because I've talked to several other CEDP members that weren't really familiar with this type of thing. And so I shared our resolution with them so that they can have some sample language for their boards to send out a sample they can change the language and send out a resolution for their boards to vote on, but didn't know if there was specific things that needed to be stated in this resolution for the grant.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that, Esther. And I think what you're suggesting for Lowell is perfect. And if others want to adopt that, that's perfect. We have some organizations that have a lot of fluidity in their staffing. And so we really want to make sure the boards are aware of what's going on. I think we know that Lowell board is aware of what you're doing and other CDP members, but we've got some other like Southwest, where we've got fluidity and we want to make sure the board's aware of what's going on. So this is meant to be one size fits all. And I'm happy for the kind of thing that you suggested being, fulfilling that role. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you.
I'm just trying to make sure I anticipate different circumstances at different CEDP members and put it into a simple couple of sentences. So yes, what you suggested is more than adequate.
And if anyone else, I've shared that so far with April and with Hector. So if anyone else needs sample language for a resolution, Andy now has it too, and she can share it out with y'all.
And it's not yet, so the goal is to make it editable where you can fill it in PDF form. And it's not in that form yet, but it is to the point where it has all of Lowell's information removed, so you can insert your information.
Yeah, I already did it and sent it out because I've never had to do that for a grant before. So, can you go back to the one that was the costs where we need a
Yeah,
budget?
sure. Sorry. Yeah. So what you're doing is you've got activities of your staff, right? And then you're funding it, right? Just line item budget. So what are you spending on staff? What are you spending on expenses? What do you spend if you want to take some indirect for your overhead? We just need to have some kind of a budget so we know what you're spending it on. So when you do and there's 2 reports due. And that's another thing you're agreeing to is you're going to supply an interim report on the dates that we have here, right? Make sure you see those. There's an interim report due February 28th, which allows us then to supply a composite interim report like 30 days later. And then a final report. I have to write a final report October 31st. So I'm cutting myself short 2 weeks. If you can give me your final report, through September 30th by the 13th, then I can aggregate all that and send it to CZI. So I've given us a little bit more time here. I cut us short here, but you've got 2 interim reports, and the interim reports would include, your measurement or however you're going to track or document your activities and outcomes and how you spent your budget. It's kind of real simple stuff, I think.
Are you going to give us a template, or are we expected to write that?
We can give you a template if you'd like. It's basically going to say, like here, staffing costs, other expenses, materials, and I think I'd really like it to be flexible for you, but if we can certainly supply a template.
I think not like a specific template, but just an outline. I mean, I read through the grant agreement that you sent out between you and CZI, and that has kind of some guiding language around reports. So that, just so we make sure that we each check the boxes, right? We have our budget in there. We have an update on the work that's in there, right? Like just kind of some guiding. It doesn't need to be super specific, but just guiding questions around that would be helpful, I think, for all of us as we start the work and know what we're going to need to be reporting on. That's always really helpful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll do that. And just so you know, anything that you put in your proposal, the activities, the outcomes, and the budget would be pretty much what you're reporting on. Your progress on those activities, your progress on those outcomes, and how you're spending your budget.
Yes. And then just for sake of definitions in the application, name contact info for responsible CEDP member leading, managing sub-grant work. So that would be like myself, right? Like that's not saying Keith is managing the sub-grant work. I'm managing my own sub-grant work, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
This is meant to just at least be something that from a document standpoint, we can say for Lowell, it's Esther Carver. Here's her contact information, right? That kind of thing. And whoever, every single organization is applying has to have somebody that's responsible, right? And we're just asking for whoever that responsible person is and their contact information.
And then a line item budget's going to be kind of hard to put into this box here. So would you like, and there wasn't any really check.
You can attach it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can attach it
here, but I'm guessing the budget will be attached, and then our board resolution will be attached. Is the only two attachments, or is there anything else that we need to attach?
Anything else you want to? Yeah, but I think you're right. The budget and whatever, you know, blessing from your board. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, so we don't need to, like, you keep a copy of a W-9 on file for us for other things we've done.
Well, I think most of us should have that. If we don't, then Nora will send you one. Yeah. Once we approve the grant, I think with the grant, we'll say, hey, we'll check and see if we got one. If we don't, we'll send that along. And so we can make sure we get a check to you.
Okay. And so like, just in my area, you know, that probably 95% of my work is going to be continuing and working on, you know, like they just pushed out the West Area specific plan. It got tabled. It's not even back on the docket, but we're, you know, going to the housing element meetings, continuing to meet with Annalisa. We're going to have to be working on policy and zoning. I mean, it's going to be a lot more. I mean, mine would probably be 95 to 99% is not, well, advocacy, but you know, that side of the world, which that's mostly what mine is anyway, on even in the housing thing. But I don't see that we'll like actually be in development in west of 99 very much in this time period, because there's so many citywide things that are up in the air that we have to continue to work on. Is there a thing as far as how much has to
Not
be
an issue
towards
for me.
development? Huh?
Not an issue for me. Not an issue for me. I think, again, look at the document if there's something really different than that, but I think you covered a lot of that in what you listed in the affordable housing strategy, right?
Yeah.
Or you can allude to it, frame it that way. Yeah.
Because we're so
we just tried to have some kind of consistency. That's what CZI liked about this grant, is I just referred back to the document that we all created, right? So they liked
perfect.
that. And again, this came from CIDRA. Kresge was supposed to fund this, and CIDRA decided on other priorities, which is great because there's all kinds of money flowing around, which is wonderful. And she convinced Michelle to fund this aspect of what we asked her for. So, and I think this is pretty clear. It's just aligned with what we did on the housing strategy. And if you put that in there and some kind of budget that relates to that, I don't think we have a problem, right? And you report on it. I think it's pretty clean stuff.
Perfect.
How will we manage? I mean, obviously, our budgets need to show how we're going to spend this money, But if we don't have 10 applicants, then there's going to be additional money that can flow to us. So would it be wise of us to build our budgets, not just to hit the 13,650, but build our budgets for what we actually need? That could be 20 something thousand, right? And just know that whatever portion we get from CZI can go towards that.
However you want to show it. In fact, that's a good point. I mean, I'll just ask you where you want to throw it in, but I can't determine who's going to apply and not apply. And
Right.
that'd be the first cut. And if someone really submits a very poor, inconsistent proposal, then they're not going to be funded. You know, this is really clear. I made the language very clear, and CZI was very clear. This is pretty simple. And if you can't supply a decent application, then you won't get funded. So, and the whole idea is the pot's the same. We got, after we took an indirect fund, it's $136,500. Either gets divided by 10 or 9 or 8 or 7 or whatever, and we're going to make it clean.
I think that's my note for everyone else. Make sure you build your budget to include all of your work. Don't just build a budget for the $13,000.
But show us 13, show us the one we asked about, and then, yeah, have an expansion so we know where to just drop it off and say, yeah, we're agreeing to spend it on the overall budget we need. That's great. But I don't want to premeditate and, plan on it being, less applications approved or anything like that. That didn't seem like a good way to go. I just want to let you know what the opportunity is, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Keith. Are there any other questions in regards to this particular grant?
And I'll just let you know, we're in touch with a bunch of people. I'm hoping next year we're going to have a whole bunch of new grants for housing. This is obviously a huge issue. And by getting these things in place and some of the advocacy work that we're doing, I'm hoping to see lots more money come into this group and this group expand.
That's good. Thank you, Keith. I
Thanks.
have
Thanks.
just a quick update of a small micro grant opportunity that I mentioned in a email yesterday. So the city sent out workshop dates for
The housing element.
yeah, the housing element, but specific to community engagement. And so E&P submitted a proposal to the city asking to be engaged in the community engagement portion of it. So basically getting a grant from them to subgrant to this group right here. Whoever is willing to facilitate and host those community engagement workshops will receive a small fund, I think minimum 3,000. So it's really a micro grant, but all it would take is the hosting and the inviting of your community members into those workshops. And so at this point, I know they were invited to submit the proposal. They submitted a proposal and it looks like it's going to move forward, but similar to the way this grant worked out, we don't have dates as to when they're going to get approved and when we need to move forward. They're not even necessarily the dates that were sent yesterday, but it's going to be a format like this where they're giving all of the information. They're even providing the refreshments and all of that fun stuff. They just need community-based organizations to partner with them in inviting their residents and provide a space for facilitation, and then whatever other asks that may come with being a host. So that's what I know now. I know.
So this would be separate from the 4 that are already planned. Like, because that's at Mosqueda, that's at Teague, those already have 4 specific spots. They would be afterwards to go more in depth. Is that what it would be?
It would be continuing to add neighborhoods. So not only more in depth, more areas. Yeah.
Because that one in Teague is the one that's being hosted for the entire central area. That's what they've always done. Sophia has always done that.
Yeah. So as far as how they're deciding who is going to host, I think at this point it's you can raise your hand and say, I want to be considered for this opportunity. And then maybe they would choose the neighborhoods according to what they're already hoping. So that I can't speak into, but yes, it's these exact style of workshops continued. I think it's through the end of January. And so
Okay.
basically just adding more spaces of facilitation. And then you'll hear from Hedman is the one that's kind of owning this grant. So he has been in conversation with me of, hey, is this something the CEDP housing group may want to do? And I said, sure, let's pass it along to them. So they submitted the grant. Moving forward that way, they'll sub-grant it to us. And that's what it would look like. But at this point, that's all I have. So there's no like application yet. There's no, hey, tell me if you're interested. That's what's going to come down the pipe as soon as that gets approved from the city.
Okay.
I think the only word of caution I would put out there framing wise is to make sure that your stakeholders don't misinterpret this as your support of what the city's proposing. And I'll be real clear because people will interpret it that way. And I don't actually agree with most of what the city's proposing on some larger issues. We're actually going to go after some different kinds of concessions from them. So I will admit to being a disruptor, and I'm very careful with that because I don't want anybody to assume that somehow if Better Blackstone helps facilitate a meeting for them that we're agreeing with what they're trying to do. So I'm just saying that just to be clear, so you don't get branded somehow.
I didn't even know that icon was there. That's a great little icon. Yeah, that's good.
I feel like there's opportunities too here for, like, for instance, I haven't even talked to Kyle about this, but like, for instance, like Kyle and I to co-host, right? We're in the same area, and it might make sense. I'm not saying it is. It might make sense for us to co-host something in our area, like at the Review or at some other very local-ish, place, and really promote residents coming in. And also, like, this is where it would take the money for us to do the one-on-one conversations with people so that they understand what they're walking into and how they can advocate in this space, right? That's our job, is to empower our community to build power, right? And so that's really the benefit, I think, of this sub-grantee way that the city is now sort of offering community organizations. You all are doing community work. It's really a smart move on their part, although everything's political, right? And so we have then we have this fine line of now we're like promoting city stuff. And I will say, like, I'm sending out my community newsletter tomorrow, like half of it is city things. Like, the city is asking for so much input right now. It's insane. And so I think we have to be careful with asking our community input on this, input on this, input on this, input on this, when we don't know what that input's going to produce or how they're going to.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, there's the Measure P Parks one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess you would have to, in deciding your annual priorities and strategies, what type of workshops and city events are going to align with that well, that you want to invite your residents into, so that it's not noise all the time and it's very strategic engagement for your neighborhood and your organization. But I love that you said the empowering piece, Esther, because I do think that it's wise. You're right, it's very political on the city side, because it could look like they're building support from all of these community-based organizations. That is misleading. But the way that to ensure that there's clarity, the way that you host these facilitations to continue to have that angle of we're providing space and opportunity where you get to ask the questions that you have is probably highest priority if you take on something like this. So you almost use it as strategic ABCD style of approach, and not, hey, let's listen to what the city has to say and leave it at that. So it would take a very intentional introduction and closing to take that on.
Mhm.
Yeah. When I say it's coming soon, I think it's coming like this week or next. So just putting it on your radar, and we'll send you everything that I get as soon as I get word from them.
Can I talk for a second about the other community input that's coming up?
Yeah.
So I'm going to email you all this email right now. So the local housing trust fund is a bucket of money that the city has put together to fund affordable housing in Fresno. It's separate than CDBG money. It's separate than home money. It's separate than all of that. This year, they put ARPA dollars in it, and it got matched with some state funding. The state funding is requiring that the project this year be new construction and be multifamily. So it cannot be used for home ownership. It cannot be used for tiny. Well, could be used for tiny houses if we classify it as multifamily.
Multifamily.
New construction. So it has to be infill, new construction, multifamily. Okay, those are the three requirements that the state money has. So sorry, all that I lost my because a text message just came in. Right now. So the way that the trust fund will be set up is every year there will be money in that. The community will give input on what the priorities are for development, and then the money will be allocated to a project that fits within those priorities. This year, there's kind of some priorities already set, but the city is going to go ahead and do a open house to get community input and prioritization, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I think they're just checking the box. Anyway, and so I'm going to send that out to you all. It's going to be October 25th at Ted C. Wills. So I think it's, again, this is a really hard tension because our community needs to know that these funds exist. We all need to know that these funds exist because we should be applying for these funds. It sounds to me like the city's hoping some developer shows up with some big grandiose plans and asks for the whole bucket, which I think is 5 million this year. Yeah, 5 million, 2.5 million from local government and 2.5 million from state. So it's got to be a shovel ready go project in order to access these funds, right? So it's probably going to be a housing authority. Let's be honest, that gets them this year. But this is the type of thing that we need to be working towards to have the capacity to really compete for these monies. And I think there's no reason why we shouldn't, if we have shovel ready projects, apply for $1 million, right? For our tiny house, which is multifamily new construction projects, right? So that's why it's important that we work together in some aspects, but we build our capacity and we know about things like this. So I'll send you all the email.
Thank you, friend. Before we move on to tiny housing update, I wonder if Esther, you want to take a little bit of a break and if anyone else has anything to share, any questions to ask, any housing updates that are relevant for this group right here. And then Esther, I'm going to have you give us a quick tiny house proposal work group update.
Sorry, I missed that. What did you just ask?
I'm asking if anyone has any housing updates or questions within their neighborhood that they'd like to share in this space. It would be helpful for this group.
Mine was just really that, and I think I already said it, I don't know that everybody was on, but the West Area Specific Plan, was supposed to be up for council discussion with the commission, and it all got tabled. There is no return date for it. But there is now a lot of, I don't know what it's not really backlash, but there are a lot of people who are finally speaking up to the fact that it really seemed like most of the West Area Specific Plan was led by one certain people group to get what they wanted, and developers. So it really did not become the voice of the people. Keith, who's shaking his head because he sat in meetings with me, we have a large influx of a certain cultural group that's on our side of town, which 2 or 3 of those people were on the commission, and that's fine, except that everything that had pushing to do with land being taken up now for trucking and truck training and that stuff was all approved, tentatively, versus other things. And so I think that sent up some red flags. And so there are a lot of red flags happening with this. So I have no idea how far this is going to get pushed back. There were several developers that the only time their voice was heard was when it was going to be beneficial for them. So that has a lot of flags, but that also deals with a lot of mess with our land that that would have gotten rezoned into some more multifamily and mixed use. Like even mine that was changing the zoning for mixed use, it should have been a neighborhood mixed use. It should have been an easy yes, but now it's all just going to sit there.
Get ready for a long wait.
Yeah, I know. And that makes a lot of things we're doing. But I think the fact that I've met with Annalisa, Esther and I have met with Annalisa. She's given us some hints. Esther then has met with with precision engineering. I think that, like I said, that's going to be the big part of the work for the West Side is getting people to understand the realities of what's happening out there and get them on our side for some positive development.
I'll add to the course of specific plan frustrations that the Tower District specific plan is underway, and just this week they presented like their equity element, and it was pretty underwhelming. And they've been kind of minimizing a lot of the equity issues related to South Tower District. So that's been kind of frustrating, and they dramatically underfunded the community engagement. So there's not a lot of folks showing up, and very little diversity. The last 2 meetings, there's been a young Black woman showed up to this week's meeting, and like nobody engaged her, and she was like leaving. So I'm like running out the door to have a conversation with her and like understand why she came. And a month ago, it was the same situation. A young Black mother came into the meeting, nobody engaged her, and she was leaving. And I'm like running out the door to like pull people into the process wherever we can. So like, it's been a frustrating thing that like they almost don't want more community engaged in some of these specific plans.
Yep, I agree.
They're way understaffed. I'll just let you guys know, we've had draft conditions of approval for a real project, a real $6 million project. And they've been waiting for a supervising planner to read them and approve them for 10 weeks. We submitted plans in the first week of February, clear building, permitted, in the right zone, the whole ball of wax. This is October 20th. And we're 10 weeks. We've had conditions of approval. These guys are absolutely outgunned.
Cities.
I think the one thing too, so, like the Chan Zuckerberg, any of these grants that we're getting, I hope when it comes down to deliverables and those types of things, and, it will not be for a lack of hard work and effort that some things may not get done in certain timeframes. I mean, I know this from the construction even of our building, but all of these types of things that have any length that the city is required to be on, and the city is filled with infighting, and then like that lack of staff, it just, we have to all realize that's, you know, something that we think could get done in 3 to 6 months is maybe that's not the reality of things that have to go through any city processes right now.
I think it's based on your efforts, and you know, that I wouldn't, yeah, and put those caveats in, you know, some of the things I'm trying to do are contingent upon the city actually doing something, which is a big question mark.
Okay.
Esther, you're up. Do you want to give us a quick update on tiny house proposal?
There's a proposal for tiny houses.
Well, we're still checking.
No, just ask if you don't want to update tiny homes, what about the rest of their agenda? What about the community land trust and all the other parts of this big agenda that got kind of postponed? What's your analysis?
Yeah, so okay, let me try and move through a few of these things real quick. So our tiny house proposal, our next steps on that is to put together like some one-pagers on our plots of land that we own, that we have site control over, to figure out, to show really that we have site control and we have a plan. So we need the lot, the site plans, the budget for it, and the like how it's going to work, right? Because we need to show that we have capacity to do some of these, that we can move forward tomorrow. Get some Chan Zuckerberg money, we move in dirt, right? Type of thing. So that's kind of next steps. And then on top of that, we are strategizing how to start engaging with council members right now, because we have been working with the mayor's office up to this point. And what I've learned, I'll move on to the next thing in a minute, but what I've learned from our work with the Mint is that was not a super wise strategy. So we have council members who just approved about $850,000 to be allocated to build tiny houses with Fresno City College. So they're going to give the money to Fresno City College. Fresno City College is going to build 7 tiny houses per year for the next 5 years, I think. 4.5 years. I think it's 26 tiny homes. And so City Council was super excited to give the money to Fresno City College to build these homes. Each of the city council members, I could hear in their excitement, they feel like once these tiny homes are done, they're going to get to choose where these tiny homes get to go in their district, right? Like they're going to take these tiny homes and build the first tiny home village, and it's going to be lovely. And it's going to be theirs. And so I think that we really need to work right now with our city council folks and be like, hey, what is your dream for tiny houses in your district? Because we have the capacity to do this. And is your dream aligned with our capacity? And can we work together to make this happen? Because wouldn't that be wonderful, right? So that's the approach we need to take, instead of just waiting for the mayor to say, hey, city council, we want to give these houses to the CEDP and they're going to put them in your districts. Isn't it great? Because city council will say absolutely not. If it's coming from the mayor's office, it will not be accepted and it will not be great and they will not like it. So that's what I learned. City Hall's a mess. Are we being recorded? Should I be nicer? Okay.
We are being recorded. Oh, probably should have warned you.
I need to.
You want me to edit this part out?
Curb. Okay. I won't throw anybody under the bus today. Okay. So what I think that's probably, Kyle or April, anything to add to our tiny house proposal and what we're doing there? What did I miss? What did I leave out?
No, I think just the part of really working on the budgets and what those look like has been very informative and thought-provoking. I think it's the 7 houses is a thought for us to definitely be. The next steps also would be to be relooking at some other opportunities for people. But of course, we were all hopeful that, if these 25 tiny homes, that we would have the opportunity to have some for that would be free. So, that look is definitely saying that, like the prefab innovations, that type of stuff, there is not going to be an opportunity probably there, like the city is doing these, and that we probably will not. I mean, the reality is we probably will not be getting those. So we've got to start, that'd be the next steps, is start looking at investors and ways to pay for some of these to start this process and get it off the ground.
Yeah, I think the mayor's office still has full intention of taking another proposal to city council that would pay for some of these prefab ones, but they need that in conjunction with our proposal to say, hey, let's pay for these tiny houses, and here's where they're going to go, and here's the plan for them, right? So they're
yeah, and we keep working and we go for that money you were talking about, the pot of money, right? But that's talks about like really having everything prepared.
Yeah, I think one thing I'd add, which I recommended in our last tiny house meeting, was like us building a pipeline of these projects and identifying like, here's the 5 or 7 that, are going to be ready within 60 days. Here's the others that are going to be ready in 180. Here's 40 of them that could be ready in, 18 months. And that be used as a tool where a city council member is going to want to choose where they go. But if we have some that are ready now, it's like fund these ones ready now. And then we can continue to work with you on adding some of your preferred sites to the pipeline, because these things take time. And also not being bashful about asking the city council members for more money too, on like getting them to put some resources into this, not just the mayor proposing it, but saying, if you want to have yours be the first, you need to put some additional resources into it, and see how that goes.
Thanks, guys.
I want to affirm what Kyle said. I feel like that ownership you were talking about earlier, Esther, you should make their ownership of these things. They put money into it. Each councilman wants to take credit for all of it. We'll put some money into it to help you buy land or whatever you need to do.
Yeah. Or give us land. There's land sitting around.
Even better.
Has anybody, let me just ask that really quick. Has anybody done the work to figure out what all land is in the RDA? No.
So
Okay.
we've discovered a remnant parcel, and nobody tried to steal this from us. But I had a conversation with Scott Mosier. The city discovered that they own this little remnant next to 180 between Fulton and Van Ness. And we're going to try and get that for a tiny home site.
RDA is the
Redevelopment agency. Redevelopment agency, Andy. That's the Governor Brown killed them, and they were a facility. They were a vehicle for getting infill and subsidies and money put into infrastructure for infill and things like that. So they kind of died. So we're trying to figure out, when they left, there's all kinds of missing financing for infill development.
And
it's now.
Oh, go ahead.
It's now the agency formerly known as the redevelopment agency. So that's the title for it, and the board members
are successor. It's a successor, yes.
They're the successor to the redevelopment agency, and the board members of it are city council members, and so really city council holds this property, and they can. So that's where, like, the self-help enterprises house that was built in Lowell, it was an RDA lot, so RDA owned it. So self-help went to them and said, hey, we have this plan to build a house on your lot. It's going to be affordable, blah, 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 blah. And so I don't know what deal they struck up, but the RDA has the ability to like sell the lot to self-help enterprises for $1, with like the agreement that this property will go towards affordable housing for 55 years or what. So they have the ability to do this with these lots.
It's cool.
Cool, Kyle. I'm glad that you guys have identified a spot in your area. I think that one lot in Lowell that self-help just built on, I think that was the last RDA lot in Lowell. But that doesn't mean we can't find other RDA lots around town. So, okay. And if any of you want to do some research, Merlene at the City of Fresno is the lady to talk to find out where all the property is. She knows. She manages that. Marlene? Kyle, what's her name?
Marlene Murphy.
Marlene Murphy.
Yeah, Marlene Murphy used to be the executive director of the RDA, and she is, I guess, the executive director of the successor agency, right?
I don't know if she's
For life?
executive
Is it for life? Is it for life?
I think she might just be like the staff person now. I think they've deconstructed all of that. Anyway, whatever. Okay, moving on. City Council housing resolutions. So the mayor took 7 housing resolutions to City Council 3 weeks ago. And that was a resolution basically is saying that City Council will kind of say, yes, we have the intention of spending this money on this thing. Okay, so that's what a resolution does. And then later on, it has to turn into an actual funding agreement, which is like the real contract for the city to like pay those things out. So in those 7 resolutions, they were all had to do with the mayor's one housing strategy, right? So they all fit different strategies. So there was the tiny houses, that Fresno City College, there was allocation to the housing trust fund, which I just talked about. There was allocation for the Mint, the trust that we're working on. There was allocation for the California Community Land Trust that's starting up.
I will just.
April, you're not on meeting. And there was allocation, there was 7 things. So anyway, council really felt like the mayor came in and had all of these recommendations and just wanted council's signature on it. And council said, basically, no, we want oversight and we want the decision-making power, and we want more details, and we don't trust you. So tabled them. So they approved 2 of them, basically the tiny houses and the housing money for the housing trust fund. I think those were the 2 they approved. Everything else they tabled. So it looks like we're going back to City Council with those individually at maybe different times. Right now, it looks like November 3rd for the Central Fresno Neighborhood Trust. It's just been a really frustrating process. I will say that. We've reached out to every single City Council member several times. We had meetings with 3 of them in person. We had meetings with 2 other chief of staff via Zoom, and still to hear like, we don't have enough detail. Go away. We don't trust the people at the table. Go away. So, so it's just a lot of work, and it's a lot of political garbage. And I mean, honestly, it's really a battle of power between the mayor's office and the council's office. So we have to very smartly navigate those systems and help everybody figure out that this is really a good thing. So I'll just say, like, I don't want to go into too much detail. I need to jump too, because I got to go run and meet with somebody right now. But the other thing that I think is a good strategy that we're working on for the Mint that maybe we can learn from and work towards with our tiny house proposal is the Mint is such a good idea, I believe. And it is a great tool in the tool belt of things that need to happen in Fresno. It is not the only thing that's going to solve all the problems. I am the first to say that, but it is a wonderful tool that can be used along with other tools to really move the needle on creating long-term affordability and quality housing in Fresno. Okay. So with that being said, this model is a model that has the support of both Tenants Together and the California Apartment Association. Those two organizations don't ever agree on anything, They're always opposed to whatever the other one has to say, always. The Mint, and I think land trusts in general, and I think tiny house development, when we can do it with partnerships with the private sector and the public sector and bring all these people to the table, can be things that people who are staunchly opposed to most policy things can both get on board with and say, this is a good idea, and this is going to move the needle forward in good ways for all of us. It's going to benefit all of us. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah, there we go.
You're doing a good job. I love the giggle. You're doing a good job.
Thanks.
And tiny house workshop sessions are making good progress. So thank you for continuing to lead this. It's good. Well, for the sake of time, and I know Esther, you have to go, I think those are all of the things that I have on my agenda and my awareness.
Thanks very much, everybody. Keep going. Great work.
Yeah. Good to see you again, Michael. We'll see you guys.
Yeah,
soon.
thank you. You guys all have a good day. It's nice seeing you and being with you again.
Yeah.
I think I was here because Jackie was not here today, so I'm kind of listening for her and
Well,
staying in
we're-
the. Yeah. Thank you.
You need to be here.
Yeah.
For
keep coming.
sure.
Even when Jackie's
Okay.
coming.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Esther. Good job. Hey, I know you have to run.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.